Memory is the persistence of learning over time through the storage and retrieval of information. It varies from person to person, from someone who lost most of his ability to lay down new memories of conversations to someone who can memorize 70 digits and repeat them back. Information processing involves encoding using sensory memory into working/short-term memory. After that, the information either encodes into long-term memory storage or for later retrieval, or escapes out of your mind. Because we can't attend to all information that comes to us, we put our attention on certain stimuli. This is working memory, a newer understanding of short-term memory. Everyone's working memory capacity differs from one another. Those who can remember more letters in this example tends in everyday life to exhibit high intelligence and better maintain their focus on tasks. Automatic processing is unconscious encoding of incidental information such as space, time, frequency, and well-learned information. Some tasks requires effortful processing, but with enough practice, you could perform them automatically. Our brains are also capable of parallel processing, where it processes many aspects of a problem simultaneously. Effortful processing is encoding that requires attention and consciousness effort using rehearsal. German philosopher Hermann Ebbinghaus found the additional rehearsal or overlearning increases retention in our memory following a forgetting curve. He found that those who learn quickly also forget quickly. We retain information better when we distributed rehearsal over a period of time, which is known as spacing effect. Another phenomenon is serial position effect. We tend to recall the first and last things in the list best.
Visual encoding is encoding of a picture or image into a thought process. Imagery is a mental picture to aid in effortful processing, where people who think in pictures are able to see an event or situation as if they were there. Acoustic encoding is encoding of what we hear, from music to the words from mouths of others into a thought process. Semantic encoding is encoding of the meaning of a word or words to get a grasp on what they truly stand for.
In Craik and Tulving's experiment, semantic processing yielded much better memory than visual encoding and acoustic encoding. Chunking is our natural tendency to group familiar objects with one another.
Iconic memory is a quick fading visual of a picture shown to you for a short amount of time. Echoic memory is our quick fading audio recall of what we heard within 3 or 4 seconds.
The capacity of human short-term memory is 7 plus or minus 2, while the capacity of long-term memory is essentially limitless. Implicit memory is retention independent of conscious recollection processed by the hippocampus. Explicit memory is a memory of facts and experiences that one can consciously know, stored by the cerebellum. We retrieve information by recall. Persons must retrieve information learned early. Recognition. Persons need only identify items previously learned and relearning. Amount of time saved when learning material for a second time.
Many people use priming on a daily basis, unaware of the unconscious memory. An example would be being told of the color orange and automatically thinking of the fruit.
2/3 of us experience déjà vu, where we feel we have been in an exact situation before. Mood congruent is the tendency to recall experiences that are consistent with one's current good or bad mood. Forgetting is a great part of our memory. As human beings, we are able to forget memories that may be a bad experience or mistakes we've made.
Transience is a way people forget, where storage decays over time without the use of information. Misattribution is confusing the source of information, like remembering an action a parent made as something they didn't do. Bias is a way of distortion, where the way your mood can influence how you're feeling toward others.
Much of what we sense we never notice, and what we fail to encode we will never remember.
Retroactive interference is the disruptive effect of new learning on the recall of old information. Proactive interference is the disruptive effect of prior learning on the recall of new information.
Memories of age 3 and below, and memories under hypnosis, drugs, are unreliable. Thinking or cognition refers to all the mental activities associated with thinking, knowing, remembering, and communicating. We use concepts to think about events, objects, or people in our world. To solve a problem, a strategy that we could use is an algorithm, a step-by-step procedure that guarantees a solution even though it may take a lot of time. Another strategy is a heuristic, trial and error strategy to solve a problem more efficiently, speedier, but is also more error prone than an algorithm. Sometimes, no strategy also works, as demonstrated by Wolfgang Kohler, who put a fruit and a long stick out for chimps to reach. Eventually, the chimps had an insight, which is a sudden realization of solution, and realized how to get the fruit by using a smaller stick to get the longer stick and take the fruit. Creativity is the ability to produce novel and valuable ideas using divergent thinking as opposed to intelligence that uses convergent thinking.
Robert Sternberg and his colleagues have identified 5 components of creativity. Expertise. A well-developed base of knowledge furnishes the ideas, images, and phrases we use as mental building blocks. Imaginative thinking skills provide the ability to see things in novel ways, to recognize patterns, and to make connections. A venturesome personality seeks new experiences, tolerates ambiguity and risk, and perseveres in overcoming obstacles. Intrinsic motivation is being driven more by interest, satisfaction, and challenge rather than external pressures. A creative environment sparks, supports, and refines creative ideas.
Confirmation bias is simply one looks for information that only backs up their beliefs. Fixation is our inability to see another way to solve a problem, where one would only see a brick as a building block, where they have no hammer to put nails into a board. A representative heuristic is judging the likelihood of an outcome based on simply what is represented. An availability heuristic is an estimate of the likelihood of an event based on the availability in our memory of past experiences. Overconfidence is being too sure of yourself, like when you believe you'll get an A without studying for a test, but end up getting a C or lower. Our belief perseverance is hanging on to our original concept when what originally opposed it is eventually discredited. Framing is how one words or presents a situation or event.
Language is our spoken, written, or signed words and ways we combine them to communicate meaning. It starts with phonemes, which are the smallest building blocks of a language, and second building blocks, morphemes, which is the smallest unit of language that carries meaning. We use grammar to organize words into an understandable and universal structure. Semantics is the set of rules we derive meaning from morphemes, such as words and sentences. And syntax is the rules we use to order words in a sentence. According to language development stages, babies enter babbling stage at around 4 months of age, in which they spontaneously utter a variety of sounds. After their first birthday, most enter the one-word stage, that using single words with meanings to communicate. By their second birthday, most enter the two-word stage, where they use telegraphic speech in their two-word statements to communicate with adults.
Skinner had 3 learning principles that explain language development. Association, where one is presented with a word in the sight of a word to represent it, such as a cat and having a feline in the vicinity. Imitation, where one models verbally what they hear, like when your parrot copies what you say when you say it repeatedly to him. And reinforcement, where a parent smiles or hugs a child after they say something correctly, such as mommy or daddy. Praise shows the child what they should be doing. While on the other hand, Chomsky believed language occurs naturally. He believed there was a universal grammar where all human languages have the same grammatical building blocks, such as nouns, verbs, subjects, and objects.
Benjamin Whorf in his hypothesis states that language determines the way we think. Those who speak two dissimilar languages seem obvious that they may think differently in different languages.